Welcome to Fortune Forecast. I am Daisy and you are in my book playlist. I am bringing to the channel a book titled The Subconscious Mind and Its Illuminating Light by Janet Young. It was published in 1909 by the Whitaker and Ray Company. It is in the public domain. A quick recap from the first section can clearly see that Janet Young is drawing some of her inspiration from the Bible, and she goes on to explain the nature of man as a active center for the magnetic element of concentrated thought, which is a key component in manifesting. She has a very unique style of writing, which almost to me sounds like she's taking notes. And what we're getting is like a cheat sheet of some great seminar that she went to. For me, one of the recap for that first section was her explanation of saying that it is a privilege to study the laws and to demonstrate their powers of the subconscious mind. And the most important part was that all of this is available to us, as is quoted from the Bible, that these are promises made to us. But this is what I gathered, as long as it is used for the betterment of life. Additionally, she went to mention the illumined light that reveals the mysteries of God to the seeker. In that section, she also mentions that there are divine orders and that there are guides overwatching mankind. Here, I could interpret that as angels. And for me, if anyone's been following me from the beginning of my channel here, I could tell you one thing, that I have shared this, that I have had near-death experience, and I've had very intimate experience with what I perceive to be angels and also the presence of God. So for me, it's a very real thing. I know that for others, it may not be. Either way, it's all good. It's all beautiful. And we're all on a path of self-discovery if we choose that path. Okay, so let me know what you think. And with that, I'll go ahead and get started on the next section. Creations and transformations. Creations are but transformations. Will and thought are living forces. We are gifted with faculties improvable by use. Feel infinity within us and recognize its power. The Spirit develops our essence and mingles it with the spiritual world. Our actions are accomplished in our thought before they are reproduced outside of us. God reveals Himself unfailingly to the thoughtful seeker. What I tell you is the truth. The Word has been distributed over the earth. You will have His power. You will be allowed to use it as you would use anything. This is a quote from Honoré de Balzac. Creations and transformations. Objective and subjective mind. Action transforms thought into creative power. The will, through the nature and direction of the thought, may determine results. The soul spirit, or subjective or subconscious mind, is the inner self, or ego, identified with the infinite. The spirit works through the battery of the mind. The subconscious may act to the greatest advantage if trained, instructed, controlled, and commanded. The spirit emanating from God, self-manifested, may control material results. Wisdom is gained by prayer and demand, that is, by claiming the fulfillment of the promises that if we ask and seek, we shall receive and find. Thought and will establishing power, an avenue for the transmission of intelligence and messages from higher realms. Ideas are imparted through the thinking powers directed to the object sought. The attention of the objective mind centered upon the ideal puts the subconscious mind at work. God created man in his own image, and through this self-realizing spiritual or subconscious mind, mankind is endowed with power to transform thought power into creative power. Civilization is applied thought. Man adapts all things to his needs. Constant exercise of the will creates ideas, and illumination comes to the thinker who acts. Will force or energy finds expression in action. Etheric power, magnetic and electric with energy, illuminates the understanding through forceful thought, evolving creative power. An inquiry is projected, response in thought form ensues, which evolves other modes of accomplishments. The function of the mind is to guide the will. A miracle is the working of a higher force through the individual. We have biblical authority for affirming possibilities to the unlimited. Meditation at Jacob's ladder upon which the angels of the God within us may manifest between earth and heaven. The psychic force is electrical. The subjective through the electrical thought and will manifest effects. New spirit has been infused into the accumulated knowledge of preceding generations. The recognition of these principles of guidance is important in practical life. To affirm health, happiness, harmony, and prosperity attracts corresponding elements imparting vibrations of strength and power. Suggestion is an agent of spiritual energy. Launch your thoughts and the higher self takes control to attain realities. Reason must govern all. Higher planes of thought are subject to laws governing answering intelligence to the intellect. Creations are transformations of thought into action. Force in motion is a power and transfers energy and is action. Force at rest sustains and is repose. After autosuggestion or autosuggestions or affirmations to self, that what desired is possible. That the subjective mind has powers of accomplishment and will be amenable to control by suggestion, augmented by faith and belief. Let the subjective mind have expression. If instructed and trusted, it has been found to faithfully respond to the confidence reposed in it. Success, a word unknown a century since, is now a sovereign ruler in all lives. It is said that one of England's most gifted poetic writers at first showed no marked originality, but affirming that her thoughts were imparted to her through higher powers, impressing images of illumination and inspiration upon her thoughts, she became capable of indefinitely sustained creative powers. The Spirit leads to all good things. Affirm peace and plenty, the supply will come. Mind force directs thought into action. Reiteration creates reality. Continually declare for increasing power and energy, and answers of strength will come. All that life needs is possible to will. The will force may be disciplined to a marvelous extent. Willpower has a relation to vitality. Energy is a vivifying and transforming force. Will has been affirmed to be a fluid taken up from the surrounding ethereal substance and transformed into energy. Angels are appointed guardians of and messengers to mankind. Man may realize his highest powers through the Spirit. This ethereal substance is a subtler force than electricity, though of its nature. This mighty agency of power can renew the vital forces under the dominion of the instructed, educated, and cultivated will. Knowledge of and understanding of these powers and forces opens up new vistas of action. All is God, and we are of God. Through the illumination of the Spirit, may higher truths be apprehended through inner revelation from divine sources, obtained by concentration and prayer. The true light will be revealed. The power of electricity emanates from the soul. The spirit soul, or subconscious, in varied aspects and manifold forms, communicates with and compels all things to the service of mankind, and it is a manifestation of the presence of the infinite to guard, guide, and respond to our entreaty and trust. Electricity, in its continuously realizing and determining forms, is one of the most powerful manifestations of God. Its marvelous revelations only in the beginning. The power of electricity resides in and emanates from the soul. Along the length of the way shines the light. As the light illumines, we advance, proclaiming progress and new perceptions of knowledge and understanding. The Spirit communicates with all things and informs and compels all things to the service of mankind through the power of thought and will. Faith quickens the spirit. Autosuggestions given to the subjective mind stimulates it to action by imparting to it intelligent instructions. This once recognized, its intelligence and resources may be commanded. To obtain its help, its powers must be realized. As the light illumines, one advances on the way. Power is transmitted, knowledge obtained. The object determined and kept constantly in view. Mind will be the generator, will the energy, and spirit the current, producing and manifesting effects, transforming and creating results. By concentrating upon these realities with an eager, attentive mind will the spirit respond. Self-confidence evolves energy to accomplish. The subjective entity is a potent force. Faith is essential in controlling results. Meditative philosophy is a garment of the human race. Conscience Self-confidence stimulates determined effort. We are active centers for the etheric magnetic elements, connecting thought with limitless invisible currents, attracting by the power of our will what we persistently seek. An aim for the perfection of human intelligence. Mind may master all things. Spiritual truths may be discerned. Miracles are direct interposition of the power of God in the affairs of an individual through prayer and importunancy. Circumstances are pliant to spiritual power. The etheric mind power attracts the all-encircling good. The mind in sleep may attract power and knowledge. Divine messengers impress wisdom and intelligence. Our thoughts commune with beings who people immensity, broadening the mind and brightening the intellect. By exercising the faculties of the mind and will, more power is brought into action. The spirit in meditation may commune with helpers and thus awaken dormant forces and powers. The subjective mind may be used to augment health and strength of body and mind by connecting thought with the higher spiritual powers. Intuition proves the presence and power of the subjective mind to manifest the divine powers of the will. Latent energies, undeveloped faculties may be aroused to establish thought communion with inner intelligence inherent in the soul, which may thus accomplish wonders, the unseen cause of the seen effect. Contemplation produces a radiations of divine energy to the consciousness. To call or demand for force and wisdom to direct it is to attract it. Spiritual strength is absorbed. Possibilities and miracles are the same, and a means to demonstrate power. Cultivate repose and calm thought. The great world religions show an identity of essence. Saints make real the unseen world. A force powerful as electricity resides in the individual will. Life is an educating process. The further one advances along the path of soul or self-knowledge, the more the serene mind may command power to serve the rightly directed will. The subjective mind is a guide. Trust it, believe in it, and thank it. It is a living presence, always at our side and command, given from the beginning to do our bidding. Its law may be mastered to guide the daily life. We cannot fathom the depths nor measure the resources of the subconscious. It has means for obtaining information not shared by the objective mind. Its powers may be educated, trained, and directed into channels of the greatest importance and service to each individual. The subjective mind will respond more faithfully with each succeeding success. After much training, it will act with power and celerity. It will perform with fidelity the labor entrusted to it. Give it instructions with objective confidence. It will be found useful if stimulated by autosuggestions and faithful endeavor. Its creative powers are beyond our ability to measure or even limit. Its powers, activity, and creative results will be increased by exercise, faith, and belief. Make the subjective mind believe it can do a thing, and you will find the results will be remarkable indeed. The subjective raises the information up to the threshold of the objective consciousness and the information it desires to impart. The two minds, or the two parts of one mind, the material or objective, the mind in daily use, and the spiritual or subjective or subconscious, which does the deep thinking, interpenetrate. When instruction or suggestion is given, the objective or material mind is in command. Then the subconscious or spiritual or subjective mind takes the lead, obtains the information, and imparts it to the objective mind through thought impressions. Divine messengers reveal celestial intelligence through these mind powers and establish creative thought. The mind becomes responsive to energy capable of indefinitely sustained creative power. With added perceptions, higher radiations are presented and discerned. Thus, by thought and willpower, may ideals be transformed into creations. Knowledge follows demand. The word necessities has expanded. Creations are transformations of thought into action is creation. The subjective mind or soul does the real thinking. The objective mind observes and reasons upon plans or ideals of accomplishment. Then, by suggestion to the subjective mind, receives ideas or information or answers of responsive thought. The subjective mind imparts knowledge and wisdom which proceeds from the divine helpers who minister to mankind. Thus are ideals transformed into creations. The subjective or spiritual mind communicates with unseen powers of the universe. The objective mind, supplying the ideals or objective sought, educate the subjective powers by concentration, instruction, and reiteration, and acknowledge its powers by faith and belief. It impersonates and realizes individual creative power, partaking of the attributes of God power. The more instruction given it, and the more faith in its powers, the more wonderful the results. Subjective psychology furnishes a key to progress. The unseen world is peopled by helpers diffusing thought to receptive minds. Finding the meaning of things discerns the soul of things. Vibrations of truth are passed on from seraphim to cherubim through heavenly powers, archangels and angels, and on to highly illumined thinkers in the world, and on in innumerable ways to mankind. Thought is a mode of motion diffused through vibrations of the magnetic ether, presenting ideas to the intellect and understanding in various ways to encourage and enlighten the world of mind. One of God's ways of speaking to mankind through his messengers, who in a degree impart his power to receptive minds. The invisible world of ideas has a counterpart corresponding to ideals that may be transformed into creations in the visible world to serve the calm, well-balanced mind. The mind must be prepared to expect and receive impressions, and all good thought heeded. An organized hierarchy of divine orders of beings communicate with mankind through thought and hand down the divine light to mankind, thus constituting the bond of union between the seen and the unseen. The early church fathers, the seers, philosophers, and mystics, expounding and explaining the Bible, prepared the world for this knowledge. When impressions are received, they come from higher sources, from God's appointed, ordained from the beginning to instruct the world and communicate through the mind powers, knowledge and wisdom and understanding to be transformed into creative power. The electric ether transmits force to mankind, vibrant with energy. The individual controls and uses this force, attracting and assembling power, discovering the soul of things. Mastering the laws governing these powers leads to higher wisdom and the knowledge that creations are but transformations. Illumination is mind uplifted to spheres transcendently intelligent, the abiding place of ideas and source of all thought, transmitted by thought. This wisdom has been imparted as the world has been prepared to receive it. All helpful knowledge should be studied so as to be applied practically to better individual and world conditions. Mind powers and privileges are forces to direct active and practical results to the effecting of all things possible through self-confidence and knowledge transformed into power of accomplishment. These higher planes exist responsive to the action of projected conscious thought transformed by God-given soul power into creations. New thought is old thought adapted to modern methods. The advancement of the world is forwarded by conscious realization that creations are but transformations. And this concludes this section. Hope you're enjoying this. Please do hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, that way you'll get notified when I upload the next video. And let's move on to the next section as we continue the book by Janet Young titled The Subconscious Mind and Its Illuminating Light.